Well, here we are on the 22nd of December, only 143 days since we first met. We've recorded nearly 10 hours of podcast. We've had 30,000 views on Instagram, more than 600 downloads through Apple and Spotify, and 4,500 views and watches on YouTube. Oh my goodness. Welcome to Too Young for This, Too Old for That, a podcast between two friends of different generations. I'm Angie, I'm 53.
Hi, and I'm Annie, and I'm a 23-year-old just starting out. And in this episode, it's a little bit different. We're going to have a pause, a reflection, rather than taking on a new topic. And we're going to do a little bit of a roundup about this season. So, Angie, looking back on our first season together, first time working together, what's been a highlight for you?
The highlight has just been, I think, the fact that we've done 10 episodes nearly and that we've barely fallen out and that we're finding that we're having more and more fun, that it feels like we've created something really quite magical. That's the highlight. What about you?
Yeah. I think for me is I agree with you everything you said. I think hitting 10 episodes, though, has been a huge milestone. And the fact that we took such a big leap of faith. Like, this is quite scary. I remember when our first episode went live and it was me, you and our editor all on, like, FaceTiming, phoning each other. And the fears and the nerves. But actually, I think it's just been the best adventure we could have gone on.
Were you nervous when we started the adventure? Did you think about what it would be like?
You know what? I was a little bit like, let's just go for it. And I only started to get nervous when like the launch week came about because I was just riding the wave and enjoying it and loving making the episodes. And it was just when that first episode went out that my stomach dropped and I thought, oh my gosh, we've really put ourselves out here. What about you?
Yeah, I think we didn't have time to think about being nervous, is how I feel. So if you're a new listener, Annie and I met on the 1st of August 2025 at a one-day course learning how to present on TV. And the two of us hit it off from the moment she walked in. I was already there. And as I left at the end of the day, I was in a rush. I had to go somewhere else. I just turned over my shoulder and I said, Annie, we need to do a podcast together. Yeah. He went, yeah, cool. And then the summer holidays came along. And then at the end of August, we got in touch. We went out for a quick drink and we thought we'd like to give this a try. And then Annie found an editor who taught us how to podcast really quickly.
Yeah.
We recorded how many trial goes? 1 or 2?
I think it was definitely 2. It was definitely 2.
And then we decided, right, we're going to go for it. So we recorded episode 1 and wonderful Mike turned it round and we went live within a couple of days. When was that? Beginning of September, something like that?
Yeah, beginning of September.
And so it was like, it's been a whirlwind. We didn't really have time to think too much. We just decided to do it. Yeah, looking back, could have been a big risk. That felt like a big risk, but I don't think we thought about it. Yeah, wow.
How did it feel opening up with someone that you effectively barely knew? Like, I don't think you've ever felt like a stranger to me, if I'm honest. But that's effectively what we were to each other.
I think it's really interesting, and we covered it in our friendship episodes, that both are quite similar in that we fall in love with people quite easily. And I guess I'm drawn to people's energy. This would have my kids rolling their eyes. But, you know, I think you can tell, I feel like I can tell, touch wood, if someone's a good person quite quickly. And you and I, you know, something just gelled right from that first moment we met.
It was friendship, love at first sight.
It really was friendship. It hasn't felt like I'm opening up to somebody I don't know at any point in this.
Well, the interesting thing is that it's only really hit me about like episode 5 that we're not just opening up to each other, we're opening up to listeners. And I remember the first time I went into, for anyone who doesn't know, when you have a podcast, you can see all the analytics and all of that. And I remember seeing all the countries and places people were listening. And I remember being like, oh my God, like, people I don't know are hearing these stories, which is so lovely to connect with people. But that was when the penny dropped for me that this is actually reaching. And I remember that was like a breakthrough moment where it's like, okay, we just got to commit to the bit and keep going with it and keep being honest. And actually, I found it really quite liberating. I don't know. It's kind of quite empowering to just put yourself out there and not be scared of it and put your opinions out there and own it a little bit more. It's great. It's a great confidence tool.
I haven't really thought about that. I think if I thought about that too much, I'd start to get more nervous.
No, don't then.
And at the moment, I'm figuring it's just people that know us that are listening, because we get lots of, as you know, we get lots and lots of messages, don't we, from friends that are all around the world who've listened. But yeah, so, well, I know, strangers knowing things. I think we do have lots of chats on the side, though, that we don't record. So we don't always share everything, everyone. I'm really sorry.
Very true.
Question. So how's it felt opening up and talking to somebody that's a completely different generation to you?
Well, I've obviously found it super interesting because I think we were discussing this a little bit. It's not, I don't want to say humanized your generation, because I've never viewed you guys as if you're not like humans, but it's made me more empathic. I feel like I've connect more to Generation X now. And I understand that you guys are just humans figuring out life for the first time as well. And actually that there's a lot more common ground than I think I would have ever thought. I think it's very easy when you're young to think, oh my gosh, only young people get each other. And, you know, my parents don't understand. But actually you realize there's a lot of more common ground and we're all just figuring this out as we go. I think that's what's been really delightful for me. What about you, Angie?
Well,
talking to a little snowflake.
Is there anything that you've not been able to say to me because I'm older than you?
I mean, it's tricky because I've obviously got a very old soul. I think maybe at first I was really nervous. I felt like, oh my gosh, I don't want to let you down. I think I thought, oh my gosh, I don't want you to think you've taken on this ditzy little 23-year-old. So I think I felt a real like need to prove myself and be really on it, which I think was intimidating at first. But now that I've gotten to know you and we've worked together so much and really intensely over this period, that's broken down a lot more and I'm a lot more chilled about that now. What about you? How have you found working with a Gen Zer like me?
A Gen Z. I think it's interesting, like, as I say, we started off so quickly. There wasn't really time to think or reflect about what we were doing. It just felt like very much the right thing to do, right?
Yeah.
And we sort of just jumped in with both feet. I think there have been times when I've worried that I am stepping into what's really natural for me is the mum role. You've spent time with me now at home. You've seen people come and go in my house. I have that mum role with a lot of people. Only today we were chatting and Steve, the wonderful electrician, was here and he'd hurt his shoulder. I helped him because that's what I do. I step into taking care of people. And I think, hi, Steve and Rob, by the way, we're so happy that you're listening. And I think I just really often conscious that I'm mummying you. And I want to, but I also don't want to. And so I'm doing my level best to step back from that. And one of the things I think we'll probably cover soon is this idea of, does age give you a hierarchy? Should it?
Yeah.
And shouldn't it? And I mean, certainly in this podcast, right, we're equal partners.
Yeah. And it is interesting because initially, even though we are equal partners, I was completely intimidated, not just because of your profession. Yeah, I was intimidated. Absolutely.
No.
I think that's, yeah, but that's before I got to really know you though. And I wonder, that's probably a collaboration between thinking you're very impressive and formidable, but also natural age and being young. I think that's an inevitability that I can't pretend wasn't there. And also what's interesting is I think for the listeners is that Angie has a natural mum role regardless of generations. Like Steve, our electrician, is, I don't know how old he is, but he's an adult, like a grown adult. So it's really interesting is that an age thing or not? And it's something we definitely want to dive into more of next season. So the main themes across the series, we've explored work, worth, obviously generations trying to understand each other, mental health, which was one of my favorite episodes, money, pressure, modern adulthood, and connection over performance. We've talked a lot about passion versus security, especially at the start of this season. So, Angie, looking back on the series as a whole, what were some of the main topics that you really connected with?
Episodes where we, or the bits of episodes where we contrasted different things, right? So, I'll never forget the fact you don't know what an A to Z is, and you didn't know what navel gazing was. So
I've got that in my notes. Like, as in, like, what was that?
no, I've absolutely loved those moments where I've learned what it's like to see the world through your eyes. And I think that's probably been the biggest thing for me, is to understand you. And, you're doing a big role here because you're the spokeswoman for the whole of Gen Z, in my eyes. No, not true, but you know what I mean. To see the world through your eyes. And I think, again, as an older person, also definitely as a parent, because my kids are 21 and 18, you make assumptions about what you guys are going through based on my experience. And I think when you talk to your children, you try not to be judgmental or to have sort of deep and serious opinions, but it's inevitable. And to have the conversations that we've had, comparing and contrasting, it's been really eye-opening. It's made me really understand more how your generation thinks and, some of the things that you're going through. And we've only just started that conversation. So that's one of the things that I loved. And this, I always remember, you being a bit shocked about how we used to get home in the old days and, not having a phone and just sort of flagging down a cab and random, not even a real cab, a fake cab, or going
all the trauma of ringing up a date and having to talk to the parent to get to the how awful. I think for me,
tell me the one thing that you remember.
the first thing that obviously came to my mind was an A to Z map. And then the second thing was actually, I'm not going to say it properly, but learning about Angie's obsession with the Depeche Mode.
Depeche, like past.
Depeche Mode.
Depeche Mode.
I had never even heard of them before, and now he's become a real feature in my pop culture life because of Angie. But on a serious note, spinning off of what you're saying, I've really learnt not only that and I'm trying to articulate this in the right way, that it's okay to have lots of different eras to your life. I think speaking to you, like I realized that in many ways you're still that like 20-something-year-old who went to see Depeche Mode and said to him, "I love you" at a fish shop or whatever you were, or something. Which was
I did that when I was 50. I did that when I was 50.
Exactly, but it's so 20-something coded, but also like you can have a whole career in banking and then move on and have a whole career training to be an osteopath, then being an osteopath. I found that whole like journey of different eras really, to be honest, really inspiring and really comforting, and has made me very excited for life. I think going back to episode 1, I talked a lot about that pressure of feeling like you've got to lock into something at 18 and that's your narrative arc for the next 20-30 years. And I found it really like hopeful and comforting and exciting, and it's made me really excited about life to think actually you can be a chameleon and evolve and break down sort of like especially female stereotypes. I found that honestly, like when I was reflecting and prepping for the episode, the main thing that comes out. Angie's
I'm having a little cry at that. Thank you.
No, I mean it. Really? I think it's really inspiring.
And so it's really been, anyone listening, it's been really nice to have, to have your life reflected back at you like that from someone that isn't your child, because obviously your children think you're a bit of a dick. But, when you're going through those sorts of changes and those processes, in a way, because you're so close in them, you don't see the changes happening. And you don't feel as though it's, directed necessarily, right? I wouldn't have, it just sort of the things that happened and you keep taking the next step.
Yeah.
So thank you. Thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. And that's all right, Anne.
No, but I think if it's something I would love people to take away from this podcast is that the human experience is very nuanced, and we can all evolve and be chameleons, and we can all go through so many different chapters in our life. And actually, how exciting is that? And hopefully through having these chats across the generations and expanding that more, we make that more of a like a norm in society. I think that would be really exciting. And we've met so many people with similar sort of really exciting journeys already.
Yeah,
So yeah.
definitely. So, question to you then. What have you learned about yourself?
I think I've learned I'm so much more like fearless than I thought. I care so much less now about what other people think in a really joyous, liberating way. Like, would I have done this when I was 20 at drama school? No, I would have been paralyzed by the fear of what people think. Now I just completely in lovely way, don't give a damn. Like, I love doing this podcast. I love having many different assets to my career. And I really just, I care what people think, and that I hope they resonate with the podcast and enjoy it. But I don't care if anyone's sitting there rolling their eyes about me doing it, linking, oh, who's, what, I don't care anymore. And I really realized I'm in a much more mature era. And I feel for the first time like I'm actually an adult.
Natalie! So what, you say more courage or less giving a shit? Or both?
I think I've got more courage, and I've matured and grown, and I'm stepping into I feel like I've learned through this podcast, I'm stepping into an era of myself that is adulthood and my adult I feel like it sounds a bit cringe to say and maybe a bit hippie, but I feel like I've met the adult version of myself through doing this podcast. I was going through a really weird time before we started this podcast, kind of like a post-drama school crisis or post-uni crisis. And I now feel like I've really kind of met the adult version of myself, and I feel so much more content in myself. And I think, weirdly enough, through sitting down and having these chats every week, it's really helped explore that. What about you, Angie? What have you learned about yourself during this podcast?
I'll come back to that because I want to just join in the mutual adoration society bit about us. It's interesting. You said, oh, I've done all these things and whatever, but I have been consistently blown away and impressed by your willingness to do something like this with someone that you don't know, someone that's much older, that, is also quite sometimes bossy and, strident. And you've done it all with an amazing work ethic and an amazing positivity. And whether you go home and scream into your pillow or not, I don't know. I've never seen that. And I really, really take my hat off to you. And, one of the things that I did realize, and, listeners, we had a tiny bit of a little ding dong a couple of weeks ago, and it was me, something triggered me. And do you know what it is? I wouldn't say jealousy, that's the wrong thing, and envy also probably too strong, but I just saw the reflection of what I could have been if I'd had Annie's positivity and professionalism and can-do attitude. If I'd had that at 23, I'd be Prime Minister by now. But I want you to take that as, really, really, you're really, really impressive. And again, then I start patronising, not like a 50-50 partner, but like an old mum telling me.
No, you don't.
And blown away by how positive, how professional, how quick, how all the things.
That's very, very generous, and I'm blushing. That's incredibly generous. Thank you, Angie. That's very kind.
Me, I wouldn't say it if I didn't think.
No. I'm quite overwhelmed and flattered, to be honest. That's really, really generous. Thank you so much. That's probably some of the nicest things anyone's ever said to me. So, thank you. That's very flattering. Thank you. I'm very overwhelmed.
Like being beaten up and cut down by acting type people, right? So credit,
kind of
you. And at the same time,
brutal word.
we've done this, and you've had your job, working and teaching, and I've had my job. So this has been a passion project, right, for us.
Totally. It's something that it started from a place of fun, and we're now moving into taking it, not that we've never taken it serious, but like in a little bit more of a serious, formal format. But it's always started from a place of joy, this podcast, and exploration and curiosity. And we never want to lose that, even if we go into like more serious topics or lighter topics. It's always coming from a place of curious joy.
What was your favourite episode?
Episode 2, Going Out Then versus Now. Because to me, I don't know, I remember listening to it on the tube on the way to my friend in Birmingham. And it was, I think, really the first episode that I was like, oh my gosh, I do not understand some things about the different generation. And then on a deeper level, if I was to give you my perfect cocktail, I'd say listen to episode 2 to understand the generational differences. And then my deeper, more profound one was definitely the one we dove into about mental health. Because that was, I think, the first time I was so vulnerable on the podcast. And I think that kind of released me to be more vulnerable, if that makes sense. I kind of broke through a little bit of a wall there.
Yeah.
That's my favourite 2, I think. What about you, Angie?
I loved those 2. I also really like the one we talked about confidence. And we had, and I think that's come out as a theme as well about, having confidence in yourself. And I love the one about Gen X v Gen Z.
That was not
least because I still can't quite remember what they all are, so I have to go remember. But just this, I think, and a real revelation that actually, the headlines just say, "Oh, generation Gen Z do this or millennials do that." We really need a third person, don't we? We need a millennial here. But and this tendency in the world to lump everybody into one bucket. And I think what I've really felt is that how we make sense of experiences is universal at whatever age. And, how we deal with things and how we process stuff. Experience it gives you a different thing, but it doesn't change how you look at the world necessarily in some ways. Yeah.
You're all still humans with emotions.
Yes. What any responses that we've had that stand out? Because we've had quite a few of you. Thank you, everyone who sent us comments, email, text.
It's so lovely. Sorry, I'm going to listen to myself back and be like, oh, Annie. But there's what's been so refreshing is I remember one person sent us a message saying, it feels like you shouldn't be friends, but you are, and you're eavesdropping on like a conversation between 2 friends.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, I loved hearing that because I've always wanted it to sound really organic. And also just the fact that people are connecting with things on it. Like, I'm meeting people who have listened to the podcast. They go, oh, I listened to this bit and I really understand, or I really connect there. Or I was like that when I was, 23. So that feels great that people are connecting with each side of our stories. Because at the end of the day, like, we want to find common ground between the generations and we want to highlight the differences. But we don't want that to just be confined to Angie and I. We want to hear what other people have to say. So, going forward to the next season, like, we'd love as much listener interaction as possible, especially if you're a different generation. If you're a boomer or a millennial, get in touch.
We want to hear your feedback. I love the comment from, well, number one, the person I wasn't expecting to listen is Rob the Builder. So thank you for listening. We've had a lot of comments from women, so it's great that there's some guys listening as well. And then a message from my friend, another friend who said, Jane, started listening, downloaded the first one because I felt I should because you're my friend, but I absolutely love it. And it's quite a few ideas for the next season as well. So that's really good. I've never done anything like this before. And, I wouldn't have said that I was a creative person necessarily, but maybe I am.
You are.
And this idea of sort of putting stuff out there into the world that no one's asked you to do. Fine, you write an article because someone's asked you to write an article. I've written a lot of articles that have been published, blah, blah, blah. But just putting stuff out there for the sake of it is a really big shift for me.
It's really vulnerable.
Isn't it?
Yeah, because I feel in a similar vein. Like, at drama school, they all would say to us, make your own work. And everyone in the room would be nodding their heads really profound, like, absolutely, yeah, I'm going to put on something at the Fringe or like, and I used to be like, good for you. Like, you go do that, guys. I could never, that's terrifying, grand. I'll come watch your stuff. So if you told me at drama school, you're going to make a podcast and you're going to do it with this lady you met at a course and blah, 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 I would be like, you're laughing. I would absolutely never do that. I would never put myself out there like that. No, I love it. And I'm just so, and actually, I want to say, I'm really proud of it. Like, there's so much we want to do with it and evolve it. And, you know, as with every project, keep moving and shaping it. But I am really proud of the little, like, pocket of community we've created. So I do want to say that.
So one thing that I would like to flag, though, that I think if we did our word cloud for the episodes that we've recorded in season 1, would come up every single time, and that is COVID. And I've said it before, but I really probably am quite guilty of not having understood or integrated how much COVID influenced your generation and younger generations in terms of a whole heap of emotional stress, mental health, environmental, everything aspects. And, you know, that is definitely one thing that I've learned. I think as adults or, you know, more older people, adults, whatever, we sort of rode out COVID in our comfortable homes. Many of us, yes, work and NHS. I worked in the NHS then and things like that. But yeah, I don't think I've ever seen it as such making that much of a big impact. Whereas for you, I know it feels like a really, really, that's too much.
Big life. No, because I think what because I don't think it is at all. Because it's interesting you say the word, like, you feel guilty. Because what I've noticed in this podcast and through talking to someone of a different generation is that there's a lot of guilt the older generation feel for my younger generation. You guys say, you know, we feel, you've said a lot that you feel like responsible, like guys, your generation hasn't done enough. And I don't know, I've never blamed the older generation. I think maybe some people can, but I've never sat there and been like, oh my gosh, the older generation are to blame. But I think that whole idea of like slight generational guilt and like feeling like not doing enough for the younger generation is something we should explore in season 2. Whereas I think I've spent more time thinking of putting my anger more on COVID. Like for me, COVID, my life completely shifted the trajectory of my life at 18. Yeah. And I do think that my kind of later on Generation Zs are kind of, this is something again I want to talk about with some of the topics we're exploring in season 2, are kind of the forgotten COVID generation.
Yeah.
Like we're adults, but actually it was a huge pivot for us. So yeah, that's been a huge topic that's come up in the seasons that we're going to dive into.
COVID and guilt. COVID and guilt.
So, a fun one I think we should round up on. What has been your biggest too young for this or too old for that moment in the series? How can we ever do a season roundup without addressing it?
Well, when I came to your house, because we did our two Christmas episodes are on video. You can check those out on YouTube. Hanging out with Mummy and Daddy Lewis, and realising that we're all the same age. That makes me feel quite old. What about you?
Yeah. I think I can relate a little bit because whenever I see your sons, even though we're the same generation, I feel like spiritually I'm 100 years older. They're far cooler than me. But I think mine has to be the first thing that came to my head was Night Tube, and I know that seems a little bit like vain and like really, but honest to God, I get on the tube every single seriously. Do you think I should say something else? The Night Tube. I didn't know about.
Carry on.
Well, I didn't know the Night Tube was only a recent phenomenon. I thought it's just been around since the tubes.
Since the Victorian era.
Yeah, why wouldn't it be? Why wouldn't it be running at night? What did you just close it? Like, it's core to my life. And now I get on the tube past 10:30 and I never take it for granted.
So, a great time as we come to the end of season 1 to thank our wonderful sponsors who've been by our side right from the start, Wilfred's.
Thank you so much to Wilfred's, a non-alcoholic aperitif reinventing the spritz. You can shop them on Ocado and Amazon, and a huge thank you to them for sponsoring this season. It wouldn't have been possible without them.
And a huge thank you to all of you that have been listening and watching and interacting with us.
It's really quite an emotional and lovely thing to know that people are listening and resonating. And I know it sounds a bit eggy to be like, thank you to every single one that's downloaded. But seriously, like when I check the Buzzsprouts and I see there's like even one download that morning, it makes my day. So thank you so much to everyone. It's very much appreciated. And thank you for resonating. And thanks to our editor, Mike. He's been grand.
Thanks to our editor, Mike. Yeah. And thanks also to our families and everyone else that's around us and has listened to us banging on about the podcast for the last 143 days, because I know that it seemed weird to you out there. We didn't set out to have answers. We just wanted to have conversations. So I think we've achieved that, and we've done it with laughter and joy and love as well. So thank you again. I'd like to give everybody a little bit of homework before you sign off, Annie.
Go on.
Homework for anyone listening. My homework for anyone listening is to find someone that's a different generation to you and just have one conversation. Just one conversation. Treat them as your equal. See them as your equal. And, you know, we're all humans deep down. Lots of love, gang.
I love that, Andrew. That's a lovely, lovely homework. Best homework you could get. So for season 2, we have very exciting plans. We've got new partners, new topics, really amazing guests. So be sure to follow us over on Instagram, tooyoungtoold.pod with a 2. It's the same on TikTok. And please subscribe to us on YouTube. We're going to be moving into having more video episodes as well as the audio on Apple and Spotify. And that is, again, Too Young, Too Old with a 2. Thank you so much, everyone. Look forward to seeing you for season 2 in January.
See you in 2026. Have a wonderful, wonderful end to the year. Lots of love.
Bye.
Bye.